5, 4, 3. Hi everybody, it's Tony Bacigalupo. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Groundhog Day. I'm so excited to have you join me for this. It's a brand new thing for me to be doing, a webinar, to be doing this kind of a simultaneous experience. If you started watching a few minutes ago, you see that we started broadcasting and I didn't know it, which is always super fun. So always good to learn new stuff. So if you haven't downloaded the planner yet, then the planner that we're going to be using for this is a planner that I created that was inspired by another planner. We'll get into all of that. But if you want to download the planner, if you haven't used it yet, go to nwc.co/3/planner. And I'm actually going to put that into the comments so you can see that in there. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, go ahead and pop in your email and it will send you an email with a link to the planner. And nope, I can't type and broadcast at the same time, so I'm just going to move this over. Okay. There you go. That's much better. And so go ahead and download the planner. It's a PDF. I made it myself. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the planner and a little bit of thinking that you might do as you go through some of this yourself. So first, let me tell you a little bit about what inspired this. So for the last couple of years, my lady Amy and I have been doing kind of a year in review and plan for the year ahead kind of a thing that we've done around the end of the year and then into the beginning of the year. And I found it to be super, super valuable. And the planner that Amy found for us is this one. It's Susanna Conway's planner, and I'll add a link to that in the comment stream later. But if you look for basically Susanna Conway planner, you'll be able to find it online pretty easily. And it's just an amazing free document she puts out, really detailed, has all kinds of just neat little reminders. This is actually the monthly planner, and it's just gorgeous. She's been doing it for a few years, and it's really smart because it's a great way for her to just build her reputation, put a lot of value out into the world, and then everyone loves her, and then hopefully that results in some good consulting sales for her, things like that. Yeah, so this is part of the actual planner. So we've got like your favorite day or moment of 2015. This is the 2015 edition, actually. And then, what did you embrace? Those kinds of things. Anyway, so I was really inspired by this. I did this for my own personal stuff, and then decided that I wanted to try to find a way to do this for communities as well. Because one of the things that happens with communities is that it's very easy for us to kind of keep going with it, to just kind of keep rolling, and especially if you're running a co-working space, once you've kind of built the co-working space, once it's open for business, it's very easy for that to kind of slide into an every day is the same kind of a thing, which is why Groundhog Day and that movie is such an appropriate analogy for us to kind of play with here, right? Because assuming that everything else basically stays the same, it kind of can be like a Groundhog Day to run a co-working space. And so what I really wanted to do was to create something that would give us a way of breaking that cycle and of making this experience of running a community something that's not going to be the same thing every day. And so I created this planner. Hi, Sarah. I see you're there. Sarah from Richmond checking in. Thank you for the shout. And again, if you're watching, please throw in a shout out. And by the way, I can see the thumbs up happening. So this is like serious feedback loop here. If you see, I just saw that thumbs up just went from 4 to 5. That's amazing. So if you see me start crying, it's because I got my first thumbs down. But so far, so good. Okay, so this planner that I made, and actually I need to get it off of the printer tray, assuming it's printed correctly. Fortunately, my studio production manager is here with me and is in a position to run over to the printer and hand it to me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Here it is, your Groundhog Day planner, fresh off the printer. Ink is still wet. So I've given you a little bit of time to download and print that planner. If you need some extra time at any point in this process, go ahead and pause the video. I won't take it personally. I won't even know, honestly. So you just go ahead and do that. But I've got my Groundhog Day planner here. And what I'd like to do during this time is just walk through it with you and explain a little bit of the thinking. I'm seeing on delay now when Amy just walked in with the planner, and it's good. It's good. All right. So so this planner is intended again to give you a way of doing some introspection about, first of all, where you've been. How did 2016 go? Maybe even the first month of 2017. Did you have any expectations that maybe you came into this year with that you're already not feeling so good about? You know, part of what makes this fun, doing this on Groundhog Day, is that we get past a lot of that initial stuff that when you do New Year's stuff, when you're doing New Year's resolutions, all this big hopefulness, and then inevitably a lot of times there's disappointment. That first month, that first few weeks, maybe you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then by the time you hit Groundhog Day, this is about the time that people have stopped going to the gym, and just kind of given up on a lot of those resolutions. And so if that's the case for you, if you tried to make some promises or whatever, this is your second chance, right? We can clean the slate. We can look at what's really realistic about what your expectations can be. And again, this is focused on community and maybe how you as a community builder specifically can have a good relationship with your community. And so we start again with the reflecting on the previous year. So we've got my little note to you, right? Where I get to talk a little bit about one of my favorite comedy movies of all time, Groundhog Day. And if you don't know the movie and what it's about, I'll just tell you really briefly. Weatherman Phil wakes up in Punxsutawney to do the Groundhog Day broadcast, played by Bill Murray, legendary, and does this day, and he's kind of a miserable guy, and he's kind of just really doesn't like doing this gig, and wakes up the next day to find out that it's Groundhog Day again, and that he's stuck in a time loop where every single day is the same day, and no matter what he does, he wakes up in the morning and it's the same. And I loved this show as a kid, this movie, because it was funny, and it was fun to kind of play with that time paradox, and there were just so many great comedy tropes that you could play with the fact that the day repeats over and over again. And over time, it's just gotten more and more meaningful to me because it really is an allegory for life. The only way, and I'm going to spoil this for you, but the only way he's able to really break out of this is to decide to really change himself and to change who he is. And not even in surface ways, because he tries changing in surface ways and it doesn't work. But to really just surrender and accept who he is and who he wants to become, and to genuinely allow himself to change. And that was the only way he was able to break out of the cycle. And so that lesson, just in a comedy movie, it's excellent. So highly recommend it if you're looking for something to watch tonight. Watch it, download it. So I had fun with this page, how to use this planner, and again, pretty straightforward: print, contemplate, and write and revisit. These steps are important, so you can spend a lot of time working on just this one planner. With the Susanna Conway planner, I spent hours and hours and hours working on that thing, and it's been incredibly valuable, and I'm still not done. I've still got some pages left. So contemplating is part of the process, and you may never finish it, and that's okay, of course. But taking the time to really think these things through, the exercise of doing that is where the value is in this process. So take your time with this. Find, off hours, lunch breaks, weekend time, and really kind of roll these questions around in your mind. A lot of times, it might be easy to come up with one answer to a question, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But if you think on it a little more, maybe come back to it later, you'll find that there's a really good answer to this question. That's the one, that's the juicy one that I really want to stick with and think about for a while. And so look at that. Take your time with this. Really go through each piece and let it be whatever you want it to be for you. You don't need to rush through it. You can rush through it if you want to just kind of do a quick bing bing on it. Bing! It's funny if you saw the movie. But let it be what you want it to be. But I really think that, the point of this is to really take the time to consider. And so just keep that in mind as you do this. So first things first, we're going to look at reviewing 2016. So that year seems so far gone now. We've got so much 2017 that we've experienced already, and but we had a whole year. We did a whole year, and it's done. We spent 366 days in this year, and we did a lot of stuff. And so that time is gone now, and we can use it, right? We can not use it. We can forget it. One of the things that we can do as people is we can forget stuff. We can file stuff away and just and put it away forever, and then we don't really get to use it or learn from it. But we experienced 2016, and we had experiences that we can learn from in that year, good ones, bad ones, whatever, right? And so now's a really great chance for us to write some of that down. What are the things that we want to remember? What are the things that maybe we want to forget, but that we can learn from now? Because, we tried stuff, and I can think in 2016, there's a bunch of things I tried that, didn't work the way that I expected. So what's the lesson I can write down from that? How can I be sure that I don't repeat that mistake in 2017? Because I've definitely repeated mistakes. I've definitely not learned my lesson from experiences that I've had. And so I don't want that to happen, right? I spent a whole year doing 2016. So if I did something and I can learn from it, I want to take that, I want to write it down. I want to say, I tried this thing, it totally didn't work. I'm going to do something different this time. So I'm just going to try to think of a quick thing like that from 2016. I can say, like, for example, I launched this Ultimate Co-working Toolkit, which is totally awesome, nwc.co/toolkit. But I did it without putting it into a launch sequence. And so there wasn't this really huge response in terms of sales and things like that. And that's something that I've done a few times where I make something and it is super valuable. It's really great. I put a lot of work into putting the thing together. But because I didn't put it into some kind of a content launch sequence thing, I didn't get nearly as much value out of that experience as I could have. And so, that's a kind of thing where I can write down, hey, this is something that I tried to do, and, it went well in a lot of ways. It was a great setup for some other stuff that I did down the line. But if I were to do it differently, if I were to do it in 2017, I would be more strategic about it, right? And I would try to create this process. I did that a little bit this year already with this planner, where I actually talked a little bit about the fact that I was making it first. I sent out some promotions, kind of let people know, download the planner, and then there's now this broadcast, and I'll be able to have the video of this afterward. And so all of this is actually even part of a larger sequence to help recruit you to be a part of what I'm doing, bringing together community builders in 2017 all over to help empower people. And so I'm kind of teasing that to you now, but that's, a sequence that I'm trying to practice being a little bit more strategic about. And I'm only doing that because I'm learning from my past experiences. And so, a year ago I was working on that toolkit, and I want to remember that. And so that's part of what I'm doing here. Setting 2016 goals is actually the first question on here, and this is a great chance to revisit. Did you have something that you wrote down from the previous year? I showed you I've got, where I was doing my review from 2015 and some of the goals that I did there. And it's just really amazing to look back on what did I set out to do a year ago? How did I reflect on that previous year? And how did that match up with what really happened? And that just gives you all kinds of opportunities to do two things. One, to reflect on, what did you set out to do that didn't work out, and how can you kind of learn from that and be more realistic about your expectations. But then also to celebrate what you did do, and maybe you even achieved more than you ever thought you could in certain ways. And so now's an awesome time to really pat yourself on the back, celebrate that, integrate that. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of us can do better, is to integrate celebrating things that we did accomplish. And so if you did something well, if you're proud of something that you did in the last year, really own that. Take a moment to feel good about that and integrate that into what you're feeling, because that is what's going to allow you to build on that and to become even more consistently successful and to grow even more. So take some time to think through that. And we'll say, as we move to the next page, if you're watching, give us a shout in the chat if you can. Say hello. Let us know where you are in the world. And give me a thumbs up, because I can see that number. It's staring me in the face. And every thumbs up I get is just going to make my day. Anyway, so on to our next page for 2016 review. First question is, what was your favorite memory from 2016? This is important, again, going back to that kind of reflecting on successes. A lot of times when I ran New Work City, and in case you don't know who the heck I am, I ran a co-working space in New York from 2008 to 2015. So I ran it for about 7 years, and it was an amazing experience. And totally bootstrapped, totally punk rock, community focused, that kind of thing. And looking back on it, the reason that I loved it so much, the reason that other people really loved that community so much, was because of the really memorable experiences we had. We were a pretty okay co-working space, but we threw awesome parties, right? We had these wild experiences. We had a fake startup launch party. We had DIY holiday arts and crafts fairs. We had hackathons. We had late night co-working sessions. We had Turntable FM dance party, which, if you remember, Turntable FM was just a crazy fad for a while. And we did startup funerals. We did really fun, crazy stuff. And those are the things that people remember. And so creating those memorable experiences is really valuable, really important. And you don't need to do a lot of them for that to really build up some energy that lasts throughout the year in your community. You could have, and we're going to get into this later into 2017, but if you can remember some favorite memories that you have of the past year, things that really warm your heart, now's a great time to reflect on them, and the feeling that you feel and the feeling that maybe your community members feel as they reflect on that too, that's going to be good material for us to work with as we look forward to the next year. Same deal with the next question, the most effective programs, techniques, approaches. Just look at what really worked. And maybe you don't know what worked. A lot of times we try stuff, we put it out there, and maybe the response comes through, but it doesn't come through right away. And so only after, the benefit of time do you realize, sometimes you throw a big event, you host something for free in your space, and then, you end up getting people coming in 6 months, 8 months, 2 years later who, went to that event, or their friend went to that event and told them about it, right? And so it's nice to have a little bit of time to kind of reflect on what really did work. And of course, what was most challenging for your community? What was a big problem? What was challenging, and how did you deal with it? How can you reflect on how you dealt with it and the lessons that you can take from it? Maybe you handled a tough situation really well, and that's something that you can document, that you can integrate into your materials, or something that you didn't handle so well, so that you're still kind of working on dealing with. This is all great stuff to have in mind as we're looking forward to the next year. On to the next page. What lessons can you take from 2016 into 2017? I'm learning how to frame this. Isn't this fun? One day I'll have a Chiron, so then it'll just be like, boop, Anyway, so what lessons can you take, kind of distilling some of what you're feeling from your reflection on these past questions? What would you tag 2016 with, just again to give you a little bit of something to reflect on? And then finally, this is definitely pulled straight from the Susanna Conway planner, but writing 2016 a letter. And so this again, This will give you kind of a sense of closure, right? This year is done, you've had all these experiences, and now let's encapsulate it all into something that really can give you a sense that this is a year that you've experienced and you've learned from it, you've taken all that you can from it, and you're ready to bring that with you forward and really just give yourself some closure in that. So again, if you want to take some time, pause, write and reflect, and have me kind of guide you through this as you do it, go for it. Yeah, we'll be here. So next up, we've got revisit your purpose. Now, this is kind of in the in-between stage. So we're reflecting on the past year, seeing a little bit about what the experience was like. And what you might find as you're reflecting on that is that you're noticing something coming up in you that is a feeling. It's strong, it's powerful. Maybe it's that you want to break a cycle that hasn't been effective, or you're doing awesome at something and you really wanting to just manage it well and make sure that as you go, it's going to be okay, that you're going to be able to handle that growth. And so now's a good time for us to just revisit, why are you doing this? Why are you in this in the first place? And if you can take a little bit of time to reflect on that, then that'll help give us a framework for what you're going to do going forward that isn't just going to be task-based. It's really easy when you're coming into the new year to say, here's just my laundry list of stuff that I want to do. And again, this is part of why it's fun to do this on Groundhog Day, because we can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, because it's very easy to kind of surface want something, say, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to travel more, I want to, whatever. And then you get down to, well, what do I really, really want? Like what do I really care about so hard that I'm willing to not just want it, but I'm willing to really commit to it. And we've got a lot of craziness going on in the world right now. So, there's a lot we can tap into. So this is a great time to kind of look into that. So what kind of people does your community seek to help? That's the first question on this section. And it's important because it's very easy to think in terms of abstract when we deal with community. I can't tell you how many times running New York City, I was thinking about how to reach more members, how to be more effective. And I was in my computer. I was in MailChimp. I was in Twitter. I was trying to figure out how to do social media stuff to kind of reach people. And I was literally sitting in my community with people around me who could give me that drive, that fuel, if I could just talk to them. And so when I did this well, I would actually go in and I would shut the computer lid for a while and find a way to just go and talk to people. Hanging out in the kitchen is a great way to do this. And so actually this is a great thing to do even now if you're sitting in your community space and you want to kind of reconnect to, who are these people that I seek to help? What are they like? What are their needs? What are they feeling? Maybe take some time right now or today or tomorrow morning. The morning's a great time for this, first thing before people get to their computers. If you are working in a workspace, to just go talk to people, right? Just go hang out, ask people genuinely what's going on in their lives, what's on their mind, what are they thinking about, and dig deep, really listen and create some space for genuine interaction. And you might be utterly blown away by what you experience, even just taking a little bit of time talking to one or two people in that way. And come back to that, right? Maybe you have a really good sense of what the answer to this question is, but you can always, always, always tune back into that. And I highly recommend you regularly making time to just talk directly to members of your community and potential members of your community out there, out in the world, going out to wherever you can find places to meet people and connect with them and just, again, listening to their stories. What are their pains? What are their hopes and dreams? These are the next two questions. Really important because a community exists literally as a vehicle for people to have their needs met in a way that their needs can't be met otherwise, right? And so when a community starts when people are all realizing that they have an unmet need and that they're not the only ones who have that unmet need. And so when that happens, that's what the initial seed is of a community. And so you can revisit that constantly to say, what are the unmet needs that my community, by existing, is meeting? And that gives you a stronger sense of how might you orient your community around those needs. Very easy in a co-working space specifically. I'm trying not to be too specific to co-working with these questions, but it's such an easy illustration for me. In a co-working space, it's very easy after you open to go from, our purpose is to help people with their businesses, to help people connect, to help people break into this new world of working for yourself, to our purpose is to make enough money to get to the next month. And our purpose is to, find another customer, to rent another desk so that we can pay our bills. And if you get too sucked into that, it gets harder to do that job really well. Because and it's tough. This is why we try to tell people, build a community before you build the space. Because once that lease is signed, once those doors are open, the clock is ticking every month, and it can be sucky if you have to, deal with that fear and also try to figure out how to be awesome at the same time. So if you're in that place, or if you found yourself ever tempted to kind of go into that place, again, this is a chance to come back to the real why. Why are we doing this? What are the pains that our people are feeling? What are their hopes and dreams that we can help them achieve? Talking for an hour straight is an undertaking. And then, of course, how does your community seek to help alleviate those pains? So, again, right back into that. Next page, we're into what are the values that drive your community. And values is just such an important thing. Think about this in contrast to what you're not. Maybe there's another group in town. Again, if you're co-working, there's like a business center, right? There's other archetypes of entities and organizations that don't embody the kinds of values that you embody, that maybe you can contrast against, or just a lack of existence, right? That your values are here to create things that don't exist already. So just having those, knowing what they are, revisiting them, how can you change them, how can you adjust them, how can you get back into them, and how can you communicate them? If your community has core values, or if you develop them as a result of this exercise or otherwise, how can you put that up on the walls? How can you integrate that into your communications? And how can you invite people to embody those values with you? And I always recommend involving the community as much as possible in these processes. So how could you help your community? How can your community help you develop these values? Maybe you can work on those communities together, those values together. Hey, Purdy, so nice to see you in the chat. Ooh, and I'm up to 7 thumbs up. Awesome, thank you so much. Of course, if you're watching this recorded, it could be like 700,000 thumbs up by now. I don't know, but right now it's 7. So getting back to those values, communicating them, involving the community in the process of developing those values is important. It's very easy for you to dictate the values, but if your community doesn't share those values, then it's not really going to work very well. So, pinging that against the community, even if you're just kind of, talking casually with a few people as you're developing the values to say, hey, I'm kind of developing some core values. These are the ones I've got. Great thing to put up on a whiteboard in the space so that other people throughout the day, throughout the week can just kind of add their thoughts or add their ideas for what to add to it. Amazingly easy. 8 thumbs up, thank you. Let's keep the thumbs up train rolling. And then all of this really comes back to the bigger picture again. The next question is fast forward to the distant future, right? And how is the world different as a result of the work that you've done in building this community? So important now more than ever. We've got so much tension in the world, so much craziness happening in politics, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear that this is all being driven by. And I really believe that community is the answer, that if we can get people out of their homes, off of Twitter for a little bit, and actually talking to each other in real life, and if we can create a culture of empowerment, if people can be less afraid for especially their work, their employment, the way they're going to make a living, and more empowered, more feel like that they have control over that and that they're not alone in their pursuits, then people are going to be less afraid. People are going to be less likely to fall victim to all the extreme craziness going on out there. And we can all just be a little bit closer to world peace, you know? Really, that's what I believe. So picture that distant future, picture your city, your town, your neighborhood, and picture it better. What does it look like if it's better? What does better really mean? Take some time to play with that, because that again gives you a little bit of fire, a little bit of drive that you can use as you're looking forward to 2017 and the rest of it. And to not just be, doing your stuff, but really doing this because it's important. And that kind of feeds right next into the next question. How can you better articulate and share these aspirations? So if you're feeling some passion coming up in you as you're doing this reflection, that's real, and that's something that people will connect to. It's a great way to attract members to your community. If you're passionate, man, that beats everything. If you're genuine, if you really, really care about what you're doing, people respond to that, and it's better than any strategy. It's better than any marketing, social media, anything. If you really care, if you believe in something, in a better world, then this is a great, great time to make that known. Put up a video, give a talk, just have a passionate conversation. Do something to really share that energy with people, and people will respond. Okay, so now we're up to planning 2017, the final section and the biggest section. We've got a lot of material to work with here. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee because, I need it. Is it weird to watch someone drink coffee? First up, I want to look at metrics. So right off the bat, what are some numbers? And at this point, just brainstorm them. Number of members in your community, number of attendees of events that you hold, number of events that you hold in general, Twitter followers, things like that, of course. But maybe even brainstorm something really juicy like an impact metric. Could you put together a survey asking people to tell you what kind of an impact you've had, and just get a number of respondents to it, or some metrics within that survey, which I think would be super great. Now's a great time to do that. I've got some materials, by the way, if you want to email me or comment or shoot me a message, tony@nwc.co. I should mention, by the way, that I have what's called an organizers club. So if you go to New Work City's website, nwc.co, click on the offerings button, you can see all the offerings that we have. But we have this organizers club, and we share materials like this. So if you're working on something like a survey, you can ask the group, and if I have something or someone else has something in the group that can help you with that so that you're not starting from scratch, it's a great resource. So that's kind of my little sales funnel for you, is to check out the Organizers Club. So come up with some numbers, come up with some success metrics. Think about how a year from today, right, February 2nd, 2018, hopefully we do this again. I'll have an even better planner. Now we're going to look at where are you at now and where are you going to go with it, right? So do you have some of these numbers already? Maybe you don't, that's fine. But if you have some of these numbers, where do you want them to be? What's realistic? What's a stretch? Maybe even use this to say, hey, I've got realistic numbers, I've got stretch numbers, I've got minimum numbers just to survive, And this can be really good, because maybe you can come a year from now and say, well, I didn't even hit my minimum numbers, so maybe I need to reflect on that and really think about what I need to do to change my relationship with this thing. Failure is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to keep banging your head against the wall. But you should be able to give yourself some kind of basis for making decisions around those kinds of things. So get some numbers down. And man, isn't it fun just to picture Groundhog Day 2018 and how we could be talking about this again in a year. And you know what? What's great is in a year, then you'll be able to show me your planner from this time, and we'll be able to look at it together, and we'll be able to see some nice photos, things like that. By the way, if you are working on this, Oh man, it would make my day so hard if you could send me photos of some of the pages of your planner. It would be so, so, so great. I would give you a huge high five and a hug next time I see you, wherever in the world you are. So please take a picture, send it to me, tag Tony Be Good or NWC on Twitter. Yeah, please do that. That would be so great. Okay. Amy is asking in the chat, can we Instagram them too with a hashtag Groundhog Day Planner? Yes, that sounds fantastic, Amy. That's a great idea. Hashtag Groundhog Day Planner. That would be wonderful. Yes, please share your photos with your hashtags. Thank you. Okay, so next page, and I gave us lots of room for this as much as I could. We're looking at what are the programs, what are the activities that you're going to use to help you to grow these metrics, to help you to grow the cultural capital in your community throughout the year. And I'm using the ruler rule. If you're on my newsletter and my organizer power-up series, one of the power-ups that I give you is this ruler rule, which is basically if you look at the ticks on a ruler, there are little ticks and then that are very frequent, and then there are bigger ticks that are less frequent, and even bigger ticks that are very infrequent, right? And those are distributed in such a way that there's a rhythm. There's a lot of little ones, and there's less frequent bigger ones, and then there's very infrequent large ones. And your community programming works the same way. You want to have stuff that is small but frequent, that helps to keep things moving every day. Something like running a co-working space every day is a daily thing that you do, just opening the doors, right? But maybe you even have daily activities that you undertake. Or if you have an online community, maybe there's a chat that you have every day, or just some kind of stoking of the fire that you do on a daily basis. Into the weekly, monthly, quarterly, these are kind of, middle ticks in the ruler, right? The half inch. Where maybe you have a weekly event, a monthly event that is medium frequency, medium impact, a great way to attract potentially new people who need an excuse to have a specific day to engage with your community, and gives you something to kind of funnel people towards. It could be a Taco Tuesday, which is a great time to attract new members, or it could be a monthly happy hour, things like that. And then you get into kind of quarterly, twice a year, annual stuff, holiday events, your company's anniversary. How do you celebrate your company's anniversary every year? A company, community, right? Does it have a major date that you can celebrate? Does it have multiple? Maybe a date that you started, a date that you've moved to your current location, a special day just commemorating a special event that happened that's significant to your community. Thinking about these kinds of big, important moments, and then planning for that, because those kinds of events, the least frequent and perhaps most big, most impactful, most energy that you put into it, can be real tent poles for the whole year. They can be things that you're anticipating for months going up to it, and it's helping to galvanize a lot of the promotion efforts that you're doing, a lot of the energy that your community's putting into it. And then after the fact, you've got pictures, you've got happy memories, you've got people really excited for it to come back next year. Here in Boulder, we have Boulder Startup Week, which is just such a huge deal in the community because it's totally decentralized. Andrew Hyde, who started Boulder Startup Week, who started Startup Week, which is global now, runs it here in Boulder, and so it's just an extremely well-run thing, and it's just this crazy week of amazing events. It's a huge conference that isn't even a conference; it's just all over, and you could just set your whole calendar around that, right? That's a great time of year, May. It's in mid-May, to orient some of your activities around. I want to get a co-working alliance going in Boulder, not just co-working, but a collaborative space alliance and a collaborative community alliance. And I can say, okay, we're going to get this rolling, but by the time we hit Boulder Startup Week, we're going to get something really special up and running. And so that's something you can really orient around. So what does that look like for your community? What are the special days you can celebrate? And again, find an excuse to throw a party, really. Celebrate your community, because those are the things that people remember. Now's a great time also, in that maybe twice a year or once a year category. Do something that Indy Hall does extremely well. If you're not familiar, indyhall.org, INDYHALL.org, the awesomest co-working community. And follow Alex Hillman, dangerouslyawesome.com. So much great stuff for you as really any kind of a community builder. But what they do at their community space is they do a barn raising. And what that means is once a year they will basically do a ceremonial deconstruction of their workspace and then rearrange it as a community on like a Saturday. And what's nice about this is that it gives people who weren't there for the very beginning of the opening of the space an opportunity to take a sense of emotional ownership. When you assemble a desk, when you rearrange a space, when you paint a wall, when you put up art, whatever it is that you do to kind of help refresh a space, you literally infuse a bit of yourself into that. And so you feel a sense of connection, a sense of ownership in that community, in that space. And so think about, if you operate a space, how can you invite people to help you to rebuild it, to rearrange it, to renovate it, to clean it up, whatever that is. Now's a great time. Put a day on the calendar right now for it. Maybe make it exactly 6 months from when you do your anniversary party, or maybe make it just in a nice spring cleaning kind of a date in April or something like that. If you don't operate a space, think about how maybe you can do this in a virtual way. Maybe even just kind of doing a town hall or a big brainstorm session. I love brainstorm sessions. Look up great brainstorming techniques. Pick a day, grab a bunch of Post-it notes and markers, and use that as a day to invite people to help you refocus where your community is going to go. Lots of fun things you can do. But the point is, get a sense of what that ruler looks like for you. What are the frequent little things? What are the infrequent bigger things? Awesome. Whew. Okay. Next up, we're looking at other people that you can relate with. So this is page 12. And what we're looking at here is communities that you can connect with that might be able to help you to grow in a way that you might not have even anticipated yet. And again, I come from the co-working perspective, and one of the things about doing that is that it's very easy to become kind of a hermit, because you feel like you have to kind of run the show, you have to fix stuff, you have to be there for your members. And so it's very easy to get caught up in staying in your community and maybe even feeling competitive with the other communities that are out there. But truly, the more that you can get out there and form great relationships with the other communities in your neighborhood, in your city, the better. And there are a lot of overlaps that you can have. So for example, with co-working, we want to help people have more successful businesses, right? We want to make it easier for people to build their individual careers. And that's something that is, it takes a village to make that possible, right? We are an interdependent workforce. So are there local law firms that you can invite to come and give a free talk? Accounting companies, right? It's February. We got tax season coming up here in the States. What about other community groups? What about groups that are doing tech education for underprivileged groups? Do you have a Girl Develop It chapter in your area? Or Girls Who Code, or any of so many groups, right? How can you be helping them? How can you be engaging with them, bringing them into your space, offering whatever you can to help them be successful? Because whatever that is, that can just be bringing so much great synergy and so much value into your community. And so think about that. Think about groups that maybe you might not have thought of yet. Charitable efforts. Is there any kind of a charity you can be working with? Any kind of a local organization where your members can volunteer? Super great community building, bond building, if your members can work together on some kind of a charitable activity. So highly recommended there. And then taking from all of this, especially that previous page, we're going to go to the next page, and this is kind of your calendar. this is just kind of a rough calendar, right? It doesn't need to be perfect, but you just want to kind of go through what does the year look like, where are there sort of major points that you want to focus on, and how can you be gearing up for those. And one of the things that you might want to do with this to help you guide yourself is to look at, well, like here in Boulder, we've got Startup Week happening in May. And what I tend to do, which I know I need to stop doing and I'm working on it, I'm getting better at it, is, okay, Boulder Startup Week's in May. By the time you get to April, you've already got this thing rolling. And maybe it's something you've done before and you just give yourself a little bit more advance notice, a little bit more strategy. You could even do a reflection. Hey, do something like what we did in this, where we say, well, how did it go last year when we did Startup Week? What would I have done differently? Awesome. Let's have that process now. Let's reflect on that and then say, okay, this is how we're going to rock the next couple of months, so that by the time we hit that week, we're going to really be able to rock it. Next page takes you all the way through to January 2018. Super fun to just really imagine on what goes on January 2018. And one of the advantages of doing this February-based planning is that you get to plan through the new year. And I know in co-working world, January is one of the biggest months for people who are interested in joining co-working communities. We're out of the holidays, we're back to work. A lot of times people move, they change jobs, whatever it is. And so January is a big point of transition. If you're doing a calendar that goes December through January, like this one, that lets you plan for how are you going to move through that process. And it's always been a pain for me, because we have the holidays at the end of the year, and it's a time when I really don't want to be working on something intense. But then right after the new year, it's back off to the races, and that's when I really want stuff ready to go. So maybe how can you be planning in November or even December to have all of that stuff ready to go? Have some campaigns in place, have the materials out, ready to go, so that you can chill out over the holidays, maybe have your mail campaigns or your social campaigns or whatever the materials are, scheduled. Have that, done by December 15th, so that you can go chill out, reflect, work on the next version of this planner, which I'm definitely going to release earlier next year, ready, so that you can just, enjoy that holiday and do some reflection and get back to it. Okay, so I'm going to speed up a little bit here because I think we're running out of time. The next thing is, did you catch everything? And what else might you add to this calendar? And I think we've covered some of this already. Your community's anniversary, member birthdays. Matthias, who runs a co-working space in Brazil called Sharing EC, does a thing where they do a monthly happy hour, and at that monthly happy hour, they celebrate every member whose birthday is in that month, which I think is spectacular. I can't share that one enough because I think it's so great, because it creates this kind of funny little group of people who have that same birth month, and you get to celebrate them all at once. Super fun. So just think about things like that. We talk about the barn raising event in here. Super important, how will you focus your energy on recruiting new members? This is the bottom of page 15. Seasonal recruiting is incredibly important. One of the things that makes recruiting for, again, I'm going to keep talking about co-working communities because it's what I know, is if you're constantly trying to recruit people every day and your recruiting is no different today than it is tomorrow, it makes it very hard for you to maintain that energy, and it makes it very hard for the member, the prospective member, to get really excited about joining on a particular day at a particular time. So make it easier on yourself, make it easier on them, and do this in a seasonal way. Do it in a rhythmic way. Focus your energy on 3, 4 times a year when you're really, really going after, this is the time to join. This is the time we're kicking off our new programs. This is the time when other new people are going to be joining in. And align that, if you can, with something that's happening in your city, in your region already. It's easy to look at Labor Day, the beginning of the year, look at the local college semesters. A lot of times, a lot of the community rhythms move around college semesters or just school year. Or, a lot of times in certain regions, there are other kind of regional events or changes of the season that happen. And so look at how you can align your community with that. Okay, on to the next section, envisioning the future. This is where we kind of get back into that heady space. We're out of the specifics of 2017, and now we're just kind of visioning. What is this? What is the big picture of where we're going with all of this? And we're going to Groundhog Day 2018, February 2nd. I think it's a Wednesday. And assuming that the world hasn't ended, we've done it. We've made it another year. We've used this planner. We've used whatever that we've got. And now we are looking at what did we achieve? Why are we celebrating? What felt so good? Picture it, vision it, dream big at this point, because that's what we're doing right now, right? We're just imagining this. That's our water cooler Blort, by the way. We call him Blort for obvious reasons. Dream big on 2018, 2017 into 2018, and what do you see? What does it look like? How is the space around you different? Are there decorations up from experiences that you had? So amazing to think about it. And what's possible now, Groundhog Day 2018, that wasn't possible a year ago. And what did you do to get yourself there? On to the next page. What words would you associate with your intentions for the coming year? In the Susanna Conway planner, she has a really detailed thing for this. It's a whole, basically a blossoming flower where you write different words into it and you kind of divine a really strong theme word. I simplified that for you this year, just coming up with some words you'd associate with this year, how you would tag your plans for it. 5 small things you can do in the short term just to help to point you in the right direction. By this point, you've probably thought of a bunch of things that you can do. Let's start with small wins. It's really easy to get caught up in big stuff. You can try to develop a big program, a lot of work, a lot of stuff that you put into it. Maybe chill back off of that right now. We've got that in the next question, right? Bigger things that you can achieve and what things you can do to advance them. But look at small things. Small wins really do add up to big wins. And then even with the bigger things that you want to plan, look at what those bigger things are and then look at the small things that you can do that can lead to them. That's going to help you a lot. And then on to the next page, we're going into yellow section again. And this is looking at how are you going to revisit this? What are the plans you have in place for you and your team? Because this isn't just you. It could be the rest of your community building team. It could be other members of your community. Maybe you have a special committee of community members that you work with. And how are you going to revisit this? How are you going to look back on what you're working on and come back to it and really make sure that you are staying focused? This is, again, an awesome opportunity to plug my club because this is what we do. We have a mastermind group. We check in with each other on a weekly basis when you start in that first 5-week period, and then we have our online discussion group where we check in with each other regularly and we keep each other in line. And so if you want to be a part of something, if you need some external accountability, some external support, there are people like you out there and we are here to help each other. So definitely check that out. And I happen to have a very pretty page with all my offerings. So even if the Organizers Club doesn't suit your fancy, I got a whole bunch of other handy things. And if you email me, I will give you a special discount for sticking it out and being a part of this webinar and for giving me a thumbs up, I hope, for joining my Organizers Club. So definitely shoot me an email, tony@nwc.co, and I'll be glad to offer you that awesome little discount on membership in the Organizers Club. And even if not, I'm here for you. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be on Facebook. I'll be maybe on Instagram, certainly with Amy's encouragement. And I'll be here. So this is my last page, and I just want to show it to you because it's got the contemplative groundhog who's in his little hut, keeping warm, but imagining the harvest that he is reaping in the warmer months. And maybe I'm putting too much meaning into this image, but it's really neat to have this image when we're doing this Groundhog Day planning, that on February 2nd, Groundhog Day is chilling out, dreaming of the harvest to come as the weather gets warmer. And now's the time to do it. Now's the time to take another chance, really think forward as to, how we're going to make this year awesome. I can't say enough how important it is that you're doing the work that you're doing, building a community where you are, helping people to feel less alone, helping people to feel more empowered. This is important now more than ever. The world is not going to become a better place because of a politician or a government or a company. It's not going to get better because someone else is going to come along and make it better later. It's going to get better because we make it better, and we're going to make it better by doing it together. And so really, truly, by building the community that you build, by growing it, by having it be the impactful thing that it is, you are playing your part in helping to make the world a safer and healthier and more peaceful place. And so please, don't give up. Keep doing it. Keep being awesome. Don't ever forget why you are doing it. And know that you're not alone, because there are other people out there building community like you who care, and we're here for each other. Whether that's talking to me, talking to other community builders in your area, connect with those folks and never forget why you're doing what you're doing, because we need you. The world needs you. So reflect on all of this from the planner. Send me photos, share with your community, have your community members, your team work through some of these things with you, and have fun. Enjoy your 2017 into your 2018. Let's try to do this again in a year. I hope this has been a super valuable experience for you. And again, I'm in the business of doing this, so I want to work with you if you have the resources. Even if you don't, I want to point you in the right direction. So hit me up, tony@nwc.co. Tony Be Good on Twitter. It's TonyBgoode. Facebook, you'll find me. And I'll be speaking at a couple of Juicy conferences this year. The Global Co-working Unconference Conference in New York in May. And then in Vancouver in the fall of this year. I'll be at the Hometown Summit in Charlottesville, Virginia in April. I'm super excited about that. We're going to have so many people from so many great organizations there. And I'm going to be working on steering my efforts away just from helping co-working space managers and towards bringing together organizers. So organizers, hosts, people who want to bring people together and help people build their own careers. So I'm really excited to share in that journey with you. I really could use your help in figuring out a lot of how that's going to work. So follow along, send me a message. Let's work on this together. Let's make the world a better place. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating and taking your time to go through this with me. And keep being awesome. Thanks again.